Hello everyone, welcome to Tales from the Garden House. I'm Miss Hancock and I've got lots of great stories ready for you. I think we need stories more than ever now as we're stuck in our homes. Stories can take us out of ourselves, out of our everyday lives, and they can transport us to far off places, to different time zones even, and to meet interesting characters. Now today I'm going to take you to Scotland, to Edinburgh, the capital city, which is over 300 miles north of London. Edinburgh is a really beautiful place. It has a big castle on a hill overlooking the whole city. And lots of its buildings are made of a local stone called sandstone. And the buildings are lovely. They have different shades. Sandstone has different shades of sort of white, yellowy, orangey, reddy brown colours. And they look quite different from the buildings we might be used to seeing, which are made of bricks. And this is where a little dog called Bobby lived over 150 years ago. The story is called Greyfriars Bobby. And it's a short story, but it's a true story. You might notice the sandstone buildings on the cover there. Now I'm just going to mention a few words that you'll hear in this story. The first word is lingered. And if you linger somewhere, it means you stay around, you're a bit reluctant to move on, you don't really want to go, you're kind of hanging about a bit. And there are two other words are fidelity and loyalty. Now these words are very similar in meaning and they're very good positive words. They're very good qualities to have because if you have, say you have friends or people you know who show you fidelity and loyalty, that's really good because it means they will stick by you even when times are bad, not just in the good times, and they will always be there to help you and support you. They'll be good friends if they show you loyalty. Now I think this book, this story, is about loyalty and love. But let's get to the end and see what you think, see if you agree with me. It starts off in the present day. And when I show you this picture, you'll see the children have got modern clothes on, just like you might wear. And they're in Edinburgh. They're on holiday, I think. They're in Edinburgh having a good look round and they find something interesting. "Oh, I'm fed up with sightseeing," moaned Tom. "It's too hot and I'm thirsty." "Well, you're in luck then," said his sister Becky, "because here's a fountain. Have a drink." "It's a drinking fountain for people and dogs," said Tom, reading the inscription. "This is what it says. It says, 'A tribute to the affectionate fidelity of Greyfriars Bobby.' In 1858, this faithful dog followed the remains of his master to Greyfriars churchyard and lingered near the spot until his death in 1872. "Oh, let's go to the churchyard," said Tom. Now in this picture, they're going into Greyfriars churchyard and they start talking to one of the gardeners there. "Do you think we would have seen Bobby the dog if we'd come in here 100 years ago?" asked Tom. "Of course you would," said the gardener. "He'd have been lying in the sun in his special place that was his home for the last years of his life. Back then, you would have found him sound asleep, dreaming of the days before he lived in the churchyard." And in this picture, you'll see him asleep there, but you'll also notice the colour of the buildings. Those were the days when Bobby used to help his master, Old Jock, guard the cattle which were brought into the city each evening for the market the next day. The story goes that in the mornings after work, Jock and Bobby would visit the cafe owned by Mrs. Ramsay, who would always save special tidbits for Bobby, a bone, a bun, or even a piece of pie. And you'll notice in this picture the old-fashioned clothes that the waitresses were wearing. Looks like a nice cafe. On their rare days off, they'd walk for miles and miles in the hills all around Edinburgh. That's where Old Jock had lived when he was a boy. And this is definitely the summertime. But in the winter, they would stay in the city, still guarding the cattle, despite the freezing winds and bitter cold that eventually made Old Jock so ill that he died. And on a very sad grey morning, Bobby followed his master for the last time to the churchyard of Greyfriars. He got as close as he could to Old Jock, and that's where he stayed. But how cold and hungry he was that night, huddled against the great granite stones of the graves. He remembered the cafe. If he went there by himself, without Jock with him, would there still be a bone, a bun, or a piece of pie saved for him? Of course there was, and when Mrs. Ramsay found out where Bobby was living, there was food for him every day. The people were so touched by the loyalty of the little dog that they looked out for him and they looked after him. He was even given his own engraved collar and a water bowl, and best of all, official permission from the council to actually live in the churchyard. And that's where he stayed for 14 years. Until finally, he too was buried there, right next to his beloved master, Old Jock. "Oh, what a story," said Becky. "Aye," agreed the gardener. "Bobby never forgot his old friend." "And I don't think we'll ever forget Bobby," said Tom. So that's the end of the story, and I wonder if you agree with me. It was about loyalty and also love. And some people say that animals don't have feelings like humans. Anyway, a very short quiz now because it's only a short story. Number 1. Edinburgh is the capital city of which country? Number 2, what was the name of the churchyard where Old Jock and Bobby were buried? Number 3, What are many of the buildings in Edinburgh built out of? Number 4, what was the name of the lady who owned the cafe? And last of all, why were the cattle brought into the city each evening? I'll give you a minute and then I'll give you the answers. Okay, number 1, Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland. The name of the churchyard was Greyfriars. Many of the buildings in Edinburgh are made of sandstone. The name of the lady who had the cafe was Mrs. Ramsay. And the cattle were brought into the city to be ready to be sold at market the next day. I hope you enjoyed that story, and it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from Bobby, and here he is, a photograph of the real statue in Edinburgh. It's right in the middle of a street because Bobby is a very famous little dog in Edinburgh. Bye bye.